The government of man versus the government of God. The Bible is the most misunderstood book on planet Earth. Not only by those who do not prescribe to it, but also by many of those who claim to know and embrace its message. Simply stated, the Bible is about a king, a kingdom, and a royal family of children. The Bible is not about religion and was never intended to be a religious book. Rather, its story and message are about the desire of a king to extend his kingdom to new territories through his royal family. The Bible, therefore, is about government and governing. What is government? Government is about order, influence, administration, distribution, protection, maintenance, accountability, responsibility, and productivity. Technically speaking, government is the person, group, or organization that executes the functions of governing. This is manifested in the exercise of authority and jurisdiction over territory and a citizenry. Government was first established by the command and mandate of God to Adam and incorporates the need to order, work, oversee, guard, and protect. The roots of government in the Western world reach back to the world of the Greeks. In Greek, government, Kubernites, literally means to steer, to pilot, or to act as a rudder. Without law and government, we have chaos. So, government is the power given or derived for the purpose of making and enforcing laws for a certain territory. Governing incorporates the concepts of both power and authority. These two are distinct from each other and must be fully understood in order to appreciate the proper context of government. Both authority and power must be in balance for government to be successful. Authority has to do with responsibility while power has to do with ability. Authority has to do with empowerment. Power focuses on exercising authority. Authority gives power its legality. Power without legitimate authority is dictatorship and inevitably results in abuse, oppression, and destruction. Authority gives power its rights. Authority is the key to successful government. If the ruling power does not have authority, it cannot govern. The authority to govern either is given by way of a popular vote or derived by way of inherent authority. Earthly governments derive their authority from the people either through a process of choice or by usurping authority through force. For instance, a president or premier or prime minister is imbued with authority by the people who voted him or her into power. In kingdoms, however, authority is inherent and a product of the rights of ownership. This concept is crucial in understanding the nature of kingdoms. God's authority as king is inherent. No one gives him authority. He has authority because of who he is and because he created the earth and everything that lives on the earth. That is why Jesus could say that all authority had been given to him. His Father had all authority and therefore had the right to give it to his Son. The Father had creative rights to the whole universe. The governments of this earth get their authority by way of vote or violence. It is not inherent authority. The only government on the earth that represents inherent authority is a monarchy. A king has the power and can give it to whomever he chooses. All other governments are formed by casting a vote or by launching a revolution. In the final analyses, all human governments are substitutions for the ideal, no matter how good these governments might be. Let us take a brief look at some of man's attempts at government and structures of rulership. The most important one we will discuss will be the form of governing we call feudalism. Feudalism describes a governing or ruling system that was established by virtue of the power of ownership. As a matter of fact, the authority in this system was called a feudal lord, meaning a landowner. During the early Middle Ages, the economic and social power of societies were related to agriculture. Therefore, land was the key source of power. He who owned the land owned the power. When land is power, then whoever owns the most land controls everyone and everything. This is where the idea of real estate originated. Landowners were the ones who were considered to possess real estate. The landowner was the lord of the land. Thus we find the word landlord used to describe those who owned land. Therefore, the primary pursuit of all who desired power was land. Landowners were known as lords and eventually became rulers of their land. The more land they owned, the greater their lordship, or rulership. Individuals who owned significant parcels of land became known as kings. In other words, the prerequisite for becoming a king was the ownership of land. This is also where the idea of earthly kingdoms gets its birth. Kingdom was the word used to describe the territory over which a local king, or landowner, ruled or exercised ownership right and authority. It is also important to note that because all the land was personally owned by the landlord, then private property was not possible. Thus, all the people who lived on and worked the land did so at the pleasure and mercy of the king or landlord. Everything in the land, including animals, natural resources, and all other materials, were considered the personal property of the king or lord. In many cases, where the lord or king was kind and benevolent, the people who lived, worked, and served on his land enjoyed the benefits of his kindness. And because they made his land productive and added prosperity to him, he provided, protected, and cared for them. This is why a good king tended to attract many to his kingdom. Feudalism as a concept of governing was a derivative of the original government established in the Garden of Eden under the first man, Adam, who himself was made the landlord of the earth. God's original plan was a feudal system where all men served as kings and lords of the earth, ruling not humans but the animal, plant, bird, and water kingdoms. However, in cases where the landlord or king was not kind and merciful, the result was abuse and oppression of the people by virtue of noble status. Whoever owned the land controlled those who lived on the land. Feudalism is an illustration of the danger of putting the authority that belongs to the King of Heaven into the hands of ungodly and unrighteous human kings and lords. When the culture migrated away from agriculture to industry, the noble lords eventually lost their power.